control things.
All right, it's recording. Good morning. Looks sunny wherever you are.
Morning. It's going to be a beautiful day. I'm like, yeah, super excited to just go and hang outside in the sunshine today.
All right, well, you got some work to do first.
Work. I mean, talk to you.
Trapped indoors.
No,
Outdoors.
it doesn't feel like work. It's kind of, yeah, I look forward to our Saturday mornings.
Cool. Me too.
Yeah. So, yeah, I woke up and so I was just watching the video you did with Mama, kind of thinking about, okay, it sounds like we've got kind of a plan for today. I'm gonna share, just talk about where I've been and what I've been doing, because yeah. So basically, we tried last week, but I didn't know that's what we were doing. So it's kind of like, what? Wait a minute. For me a little bit. I'll watch it and see if it's worth sharing then. But
well, now people are going to want it even more.
Well, I know we would.
At this point, they don't even know there is one.
I don't know there was the missing one. Well, that's what the. Okay, I'm just gonna. That was the that podcast I was telling you about, where the guy looked into sequels, movie sequels, and what is it about that, and why did they advertise the movie sequels, years before? It's just because people have this thing where, they want the whole package. Like if they watch one, it feels like they have to, even though we all know that the sequels are never as good as the original, and yet there's something about needing to, something in our psyche where we have to feel like we've got all of them, the whole collection of them or something. So yeah, people out there will want to watch all of the whole collection on the show. Their life will feel incomplete.
They'll be sitting around the coffee table.
Right.
Did you see episode? I haven't missed it. I can't find that one. They talk about one, but
the mystery episode. What was it? Oh my god, no!
it came out on bootleg.
Like, did she really make a fool of herself in that one?
Yeah, I hacked into his computer and I got it.
Yeah, I had to have it.
I made a tape. It's being pirated.
The big version. That's good. Oh.
It'll probably be the most watched one. It'll go viral.
Control here.
Oh no.
Oh god, yeah, now I'll have to publish it no matter
what. Oh yeah, because people are watching this and think, what the hell are they talking about?
Yeah, I know. They just get on with it. But okay, it's about my spiritual path. Wait, I don't even know if I have a spirit. That kind of like threw me. It's like, what? I don't have a spiritual path. I don't even know if I'm spiritual. But and I was thinking about it. It's like a lot of it's been this reluctant thing. I'm just like, oh god, okay, I guess I gotta do this.
My brother and my mom are.
Yeah, right. Dragging me along.
I want to be different. I want my own identity.
Yeah.
It wasn't. Well, just to clarify, I wasn't asking. I have to look back about the path. It was just actually the intensives. I was really what was the change for you? What did you experience? And
yes, exactly. But then for this one, right? Like you're like saying you're interested in people's paths and things.
Origin stories. People
yeah.
like origin
so, okay.
stories.
Well, so it's not when I think back on my life and as a path or something. When I think of being a kid, I was just really unhappy. I remember being a kid and someone talking about, oh, you're so lucky to be a kid, and this idea of childhood bliss, and I was like, what are they talking about? Like it just felt like, I don't know,
childhood bliss.
Innocence of childhood, and you don't have to worry about things. Like I just remember being really, deeply unhappy, and like think when I try to figure it out, I think I was just really I've always been really sensitive. And, growing up in a household where there was like a lot of fighting, and I could just tune in to everybody's emotions so strongly. I think that's what it was. And as a kid, I didn't know that, but it was like there was no barrier between my feelings over here and, you know, others' feelings, especially, mom and papa. Like, it would be like I could just feel what they're feeling. And it's so much so, I mean, even talking about it, I feel it in my guts, right? Just this clenching, this anxiety, this yeah. And not feeling responsible for it, but feeling like I wanted to help. I wanted to do something just to, like, because for me, it was like it just was wrong, all this fighting. And so, I mean, it felt like I was always kind of there. And I felt very isolated. I don't remember, you know, I didn't have any close friends, and I didn't, I just felt really alone in the family. And, but, I mean, uh, I loved school though. That was a good one because I had school. I loved learning. I couldn't understand people that didn't want to go to school or learn. Like, I was just like, I would gobble it up. And every birthday when I would, but it would be interesting. Every birthday when I would get to make a wish, it was always, I want to be happy. It was like this was just, I want to be happy. I want to be happy. That was my greatest wish. And I remember, being asked, well, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I'm like, well, what helps people the most? Someone said doctor. So it's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to be a doctor. I think I was 4 at the time. And then this was in this, early 70s. So everybody's like, wow, a female doctor. That's so cool. Right. And so I hung on to this thing.
When was that?
Well, I was like 4 or 5, I think, the early 70s. There weren't a lot of female doctors, I guess, at the time, because everybody was like, so this was something I could carry around, right? Like, yeah, people ask, so it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to be a doctor because of the reaction I got. But really, I just wanted to help people. And then, so anyways, we'll just skip forward to my 20s when I'm, I'm in university thinking, oh yeah, I just want to help people. And I'm going to be a doctor. And I was like, whoa, no, this isn't my path. It just felt really wrong. I mean, really, I wanted to become a doctor so I could go to Africa to, help people there. But so I quit university and went traveling. That's when I ended up down in Mexico, camping on the beach for a few weeks. And it was just, the ocean. And it was the first time I actually started letting myself enjoy what I loved and not be responsible for other people. And it was amazing, right? I came back and decided to do marine biology. And it was just around that time where something in me clicked. And I think it started when I was reading Adventures of Oversoul 7, the Seth books. And I had interesting out of body experiences and things, and like sort of lucid dreams and things. And then something clicked where I was like, I all of a sudden realized that, oh, this whole thing about wanting to be happy and waiting, it was like I realized, oh, I can just decide to be happy. And boom, it was like something shifted. And I was just happy. And this went on for a couple of years where I was just happy. And it was great that, I moved to Peachland at the time. I was living with Scott then, and so happy. And it was like in my 20s then, finally getting to see that what life could be like. Because before that, there was just this deep unhappiness, and that sort of was just this cloud over me. And I read the book Creative Visualization, where you could create your own reality. And so I would draw a picture something and write down what I wanted, little things, and boom, it would just appear in my life. And it's like, holy shit, this is like magic, right? All these things just started unfolding. And, I was maybe whatever, it's like I was in this space of a totally different perspective of life, and things were just going along wonderfully. And then I decided to go do my teacher training. So by this time I got a degree in marine biology because I loved the ocean. But then it kind of, things shifted, and I decided, well, I'm going to be a mom someday. I'm going to just go get my teaching degree. But that was interesting because being back there, it was like being back in school. And all of a sudden, it seemed to bring back all my insecurities. Everything came washing in. And feelings like of not fitting in and all of that was just there with this course that I was taking, because it was a small group. We were like 28 people, together for a whole year. And it was really interesting because I could sort of sit back and see how all of a sudden, so I had a couple years of just being happy, and then all this stuff came in, all these childhood triggers, and I couldn't work through them somehow, or I kind of got tangled up with them. And
So just listening to this, and so it sounds like when, I mean, the question that pops with me is, how did you know you were happy? And just in listening to it, so it sounds like the happiness was kind of a spaciousness. Like it sounds like you talked about this dark cloud, right? It went unhappy, and then you talked about being happy, and you just like it lifted. So this kind of spaciousness, and now you're saying all of a sudden more things.
Yeah, it was like this awareness. I realized I could choose what state I wanted to be in. Is almost what it was. So it was like just choosing a state and deciding that I'm going to just choose to be happy, and picturing myself there. It's like, yeah, there's colors, there's lightness, there's this joy, and it was just there. And then all of a sudden I go back into this other setting, and I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't choose to be happy. Like I was trying, I'm like grasping for this state that I wanted. But instead there's all this other stuff going on. And I mean, I sort of like it brought me back to then more of a baseline level where, I'd kind of spent a lot of my life, right? And so there I am, but so I got my teaching degree. I went traveling through Asia, and it felt like, all these parts of me, almost like, okay, well, here are these parts of me I don't like, or something, or this, not that who I am, isn't okay to the world or something. It was always kind of that piece. Who I am is not okay. And then I went traveling through Asia with mom on a buying trip for 6 weeks. And I don't know, I just got hit by something. It was like, I just wanted to have a child. I'd never had that before. I was like 29 years old, 30, maybe. No, I think I was 29, and just decided I just have to have a child. Like I just had this intense urge to bring a child into the world and show them all the amazing things in the world. Like that was I wanted to be able to show them all of this. I mean, I think I was hanging out with, seeing a lot of these children in third world countries that didn't have a lot. And I don't know, it doesn't even, now it made sense to me at the time. Now that I'm saying it, it doesn't actually make sense. But I came back, and just decided, yeah, we're going to have a kid. And, so I kind of told Scott the first day I got back. And I think I got pregnant that very first night back from Asia, being away 6 weeks. Like I know I did, because doctors were telling me that I'd conceived a couple weeks before that, and I didn't. And, I mean, it was but there was this magical thing. Like, in one day I saw dragonflies 3 different times, and so there was something about dragonflies, and I don't know. It seems like for me, there's all these magical things that have happened, and at one time there's a swarm of dragonflies. They were like big like this, and there was like hundreds of them. Like, imagine mosquitoes, but this big. But it was all dragonflies just swarming around at one time. It was this magical moment, and I knew something was up from the dragonflies. Didn't know what. Came back. The day I found out I was pregnant, I went for a walk with Scott, and there were dragonflies everywhere. And I was like, oh my God, this was it. I don't know if that's, the spirit of Sandin, or, it's just his energy, or if it was just some message, but that was so powerful. And becoming a mother it was like this other phase of my life where it just felt so right. Like I had 4 years of just ease. It was never a problem at being like it was. There was never any question, anxiety about what to do. I just was able to have this felt sense of what felt right for every decision with Sandin, and it was like just the two of us. We had this bubble through, and it was magical again. It was really magical. And then stuff started going on, in my relationships, and it got, so, and I had Finn, which was, again, it was this amazing experience, but things kind of started crushing back in again. And I think, so Finn was only like 2 years old. And meanwhile, you and Mama are off doing all this exploration and doing intensives. And Mom would come back and tell me these stories of these amazing experiences she'd have on these retreats, these meditation retreats. And I'd be like, wow, that sounds amazing. But not for me. I don't know. There was just like this resistance. And then Mama got, she went and got the training to give them. And she's still, she would be sharing how this was opening up her life, and in such a way, and helping people in this really deep, profound way, in a way that, she says it was like, counseling that, could take place, and the same effects as counseling for 2 years could happen on a weekend with people, right? This breaking open. And she kept saying, you could come to it, whenever you're ready. And I'd be like, yeah. But it was like, I got to a place where there was so much, I was so unhappy and so contracted, and just, there was there were no more paths. So I remember calling her up saying, I want to come to your intensive. She's like, okay, yeah. Meanwhile, this had never been done. You don't have your family on your intensive. You don't. And so it was like she was breaking all the rules. But it was like,
this is when she was doing them down by the lake?
Yeah, in Kelowna. Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know, I think it was like her 4th or 5th intensive, because she was still doing her trial period or something. But and I remember she said, well, I'm going to have, the monitor will be your check-in, because, it's probably better if you and I aren't, just in case this brings up stuff, interpersonal things and stuff. And I was like, yeah, okay. But I went there. It was like walking into this different world right from the get-go. I got there, and it was like I was just in this different space, like once again, like kind of this magical space of beingness. And it was a beautiful spot right on the lake. It was sunny like this, and I had no idea what I was in for. Like Mama didn't explain any of it to me. I didn't know what a dyad was. She just said, just follow the instructions. That's all I'm asking for you, is do the technique. And I'm like, okay, yeah, what is the technique? I don't know. And so basically, should I share about what the intensives kind of are?
Yeah, let's get
my take on it. Okay, so basically, so I wasn't going to this out of any sense of wanting to know the truth of anything. I was just at a place where I needed something, and I didn't, and so I was told to explore this question, tell me who you are, like knowing the truth of me. And it's all about, they're called enlightenment intensives, and it's about experiencing the truth of you. And I had no idea what that was, what people were even talking about, right? And it's like it's the truth. It's being closer than close to you. And I'm just like, okay, and so basically what it is you sit across from another person in a chair or on the ground, and there's 2 rows of people, and there were maybe 16 of us there at the time. It was nice. It was just a smaller group, but I would sit across from somebody, and they would ask me, tell me who you are. And then they just hold the space. So there's a gong, ding, and I have 5 minutes to take the question in. There's 4 steps, right? I remember trying to keep these 4 steps in mind. And now I can see it. It's just like a technique.
Be a good student.
Yes, totally. Because that was my commitment, right? I didn't have money at the time. My commitment was I would do the technique. So I get a sense of myself. Okay, that's number 1. I have the intention to directly experience myself. That's like saying to myself, okay, yes, whatever it takes, I'm going to do this. And number 3 would be to open. Okay, now I said that, I'm just going to sit here and wait. And then what shows up? Oh, okay, it's this. And then the 4th one would be to just communicate that to the person across from me. So I do that for 5 minutes, gong, and then it would be my turn to just hold the space, keep eye contact, and tell me who you are. I mean, there were other questions. Tell me what you are. Tell me what life is. Tell me what another is. Tell me what love is. And so then I would hold the space and just, it's without commenting. You don't nod your head. You don't say, yes, this is, I agree with what you're saying, or, ooh, I don't know about you now, right? And none of that. You're just holding the space in a non-judgmental way. And you do this back and forth 4 times for 40 minutes. And then there's a gong. The rest of it is silent. You don't talk. That was new for me too. It's like, okay, I don't talk to people. But it was nice too. It's like, oh my God, it took away all this piece of having the social thing of having to do this social interaction. How are you? I'm fine. How are you? Because that was an awkward one. I didn't grow up learning. I don't know, something got missed there. I don't know if it was our upbringing or what, but it didn't feel like I wasn't really taught that, there's a way of doing things. There's a way of interacting with people, and there's like a formula, and I didn't ever know it. I was kind of out in left field. I don't know. Maybe it was because growing up in Quebec and then going up in BC and then back and forth, where it's kind of different cultural things. Just, yeah, I never got it instilled in me. But so, yes, it was this incredibly powerful thing. And first of all, it was weird being seen, like being, wow, this person's giving me all their attention. I'd never felt that. In fact, I think I'd gone out of my way most of my life to sort of stay invisible and sort of stay in the background and not be seen. And so to be able to have someone there listening to them, to me, was profound. And it was like, holy smokes, this is amazing, right? And then to hold the space for them because of my connection, like whatever is in me that helps. I mean, I could right away like merge with people. They're explaining something and I could feel it. It's like, holy shit, I can feel what they're feeling, like in a tangible way. And their grief, I could feel it. I would start crying or whatever. And it was like I had to cry in front of people to in order to be able to do the technique, because that was what Mama said. Okay, do the technique. I had to step through that barrier of letting someone see me cry and be emotional. And because I feel like, that's just what's always going on here under the surface. I'm just this swirling emotional energy. It's like always here. And like I had freedom to say that. But it was like I kept, so I was having these different experiences. One, it was like once I had this energy in my lower back, and it was like butterflies in my belly that just exploded out of my belly. And I was like, whoa, what just happened? It was like the second night or something. And I'm like, what the heck? And it was like, because I've always had this uncomfortableness in my belly, and it's like ickiness, I would call it. It makes, I can't sleep, and IBS or whatever it is. And in that moment, I thought, oh, it's all these butterflies. It's always just been butterflies wanting to be free. And it wasn't this negative thing there at all. It was like, I don't know. I kind of today, I sort of think it's maybe like my creativity or something, that just that energy that needs to be released or something. I don't even know. But I remember going up to the monitor and saying, yeah, I just had this experience. And it was like, whoa. And he looked at me, he's like, yeah, so who was it that had that experience? I was like, okay, I guess that wasn't what I'm supposed to be going for or something. And I didn't know. So then I'm like, okay, well, who am I? Well, I'm me. And finally I just went and went up to Mama at one of the breaks, because, I wasn't supposed to talk to her, but I was like, whatever, Mom, I was like, okay, well, so how's it going? I said, well, it's it's amazing, but I don't really get this question. Tell me who you are. She said, I'm just me. It's like I knew who I was. And she says, well, can you present that? And then I went, ooh, okay. And that was terrifying. Right. That scared, because that's what it was. It's like, well, of course I know who I am. I've always known who I am. This is always here. Yeah. But to show somebody else. So I kind of steeled myself, and I went back into the next dyad, and I was sitting in front of this young woman, lovely young woman. So I said to her, okay, well, this is what's going on. And I just asked, I'm supposed to present who I am. And so I'm going to do it. And it was like reaching down into my heart and pulling out this little Michelle that had been hiding in here all along because it wasn't safe. Yeah, I can feel it, like bringing up emotions just saying that. And it's like pulling her out and assuring her it was safe to come out and be seen. And so I did that, and it was like very tentatively, and I was just like, okay, this is me. And she started crying. The woman in front of me actually started, she could see me, like she could see me. And it felt like the first time I'd had permission to just be me and just be seen as just me. And it was so powerful. And yeah, I can feel it right now, right? Even just sharing it, that it was just this amazing experience to just be me. And it stuck with me. But it was interesting because despite that being me, in my background, there was these things, like there was this choice. I could see it really clearly. I had to leave my relationship. I could just, it was just so clear in this space. It was like, yeah, I got it, but I can't do it. It was clear what I had to do. And at the same time, it was so clear I would never be able to do it because I couldn't rip my family apart. So I was feeling kind of sad at the end of the intense of that. And there was also this thing, I developed this real intense crush on somebody there. and and yet at the same time, there was like this me being me, but at the same time I'm like, yeah, but that's so boring. Me just being me is so boring. There's nothing about this that would attract this other person or anybody else, right? So that was an interesting one because I could be me, but I had this belief that this was utterly boring, me here. But anyways, I went back home, and the
So
kids were waiting there for me. So this is just the last part. So that was so powerful because I remember Sandon, my oldest son, he was 4 at the time.
yeah.
No, he was 6 at the time. And he was staying at Mama's there. So when I came back there, I opened the door and he came out to see me because he missed me. And it was like he stopped, like he saw, he literally stopped. And he looked at me and he started crying and he ran and hugged me, Mommy. It was like he saw me. And I was just like, oh my God, like there's something amazing that's just happened here. I don't understand it, but he can see it. You know, he's this little 6-year-old boy. He saw the difference. And I mean, and from there, it was a reluctant path, like me just sort of being pulled along reluctantly. But I mean, that was that was the moment for me where, yeah, I just gave permission to be me, and it lasted months, like where I was just in this state of just joy at being me.
What was the moment
The
when you
moment,
sat down? Like you said, that was the moment.
well, just the experience of going to the intensive and having permission to be me and seeing like, wow, you know, like, but I mean, there was a lot of, I mean, after that, I had to work, I'm still working through it. There's this piece of, like I said, feeling like I'm boring, but also an unworthiness. Like I've had other experiences. So it's like this magical thing, right? You sit down, you clear away stuff, and you just keep opening up and sharing. And that there's something in that the sharing of it that doesn't happen if I'm just meditating by myself. The being received in a non-judgmental way has allowed a lot of these things to just kind of evaporate. Like things that I thought were solid and part of my makeup have kind of dissolved away over the years. And but this piece about feeling worthy, like I had an experience because I was working on, well, what am I? What's the truth of me? In one intensive, not too long after, maybe a couple years later, and I got that I am sunlight, and like this divine sun, like I am a piece of the sun, like the sunlight, like a particle of it. And the truth of it was so true, but it hit against all of my programming so badly that I started sobbing because it was like a part of me saw that, but this other part of me was absolutely unwilling to acknowledge it, that I could be sunlight, that I could be this divine, this piece of divinity. It just could not, and it was like this agony, and so it hit against this piece, and I'm just like sobbing, communicating it, because it's like agony that I can't acknowledge, that whatever this unworthy piece that's there just acts like this wall. And I mean, there was another intensive where I got that I was lovable, and that one, it literally sent me into this tailspin. It was like it, the networks, the neural wiring had no room for that truth to come in, that I'm lovable. And it literally sent me into this tailspin. I couldn't even, so I would come back. I went for a walk, come back, sat down on the next diad, trying to communicate the words. And it was like, it was dead. There was nothing there. Like, yeah, I'm lovable. And I was so grateful I was able to sit, like half a day later, across from an individual who was able to just hold that space, and they could see, I could feel from them just this love that penetrated something in me, that to show that I was actually lovable. And it was huge. That was a huge one. Like, so it's been so hard. And I still have these layers. I can feel this. Like, there's a part of me, even just in saying, well, other people have spiritual paths. I'm not spiritual. I don't have a spiritual path. It feels like it's because there's something there still that I'm not really worthy to kind of fully step into to that. Like, there's something there it's for divine beings or something that's, I'm still, so I can feel there's still this piece, but at the same time, I've come to a place of real calm and acceptance inside of myself, where I'm okay with that. I'm okay with these parts of me that aren't, that aren't happy, or that's like my kindergarten class again. Like, I can be okay and just trust. Like, there's that other piece, is trusting of it. And can I just allow that I have no idea what's coming next or what's around the corner? And and a lot of it, I mean, I really value all the times I've talked with you and shared stuff. So there's things that you share with me that have been sort of out of my reach, right? But I'll get little snippets, and they kind of land here, and they stay. And it's like they kind of keep, and I'll be in a place, and that'll show up again. Yeah, I can kind of investigate it. And because it's interesting. It's interesting you're doing this. I'm really excited to sort of watch, these talks you have with other people, and really see their paths, and where they, because we're all from these different places. Like I said, mine's always been this emotional place, and this connection to other people through an emotional level. Like, I can pick up people's things, that the things I pick up people's things, and then I make up stories about what that is. I see that now, whereas before I would think I would know, like, oh, that's because they don't like me, or I've done something to upset them or something. Whereas, because the emotional thing I feel is real, I know that, I have a true sense of what they're knowing, but I have no idea why or what's going on for them, except for the story I make up in my own head. And so doing intensives has helped too, me to just be able to hold the space for other people and just listen to them, and that practice of listening without judgment to other people.
So can I ask a question? So when you said that you see this in others, and you have this emotional connection to others, and a story arises about what's going on for them, and then you said you recognize, well, you actually have no idea, this is a story you made up.
Yeah.
And earlier this morning, before we recorded, you were kind of sharing how you're kind of recognizing this that it's all stories,
Yes.
right? So I'm just curious. So these this stuff that you feel and you experience, all these emotions and these pictures and images and stuff like that, and a story arises about it. Is there any sense that same perspective about others, is there a kind of sense about your
It
own?
applies to me. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, but I forget. I always like get caught up in things, right? But and I mean, I can kind of see it now anyways. It's like we're just I just see this book, open book right now, fairy tale book sitting in front of me, right? That we're all just choosing some kind of different stories and kind of, these, these and it's rich. There's a richness to it. So whether or not it's about having to drop our stories, I don't know, right? Like but being
Well,
aware of them, I can see can help reduce suffering for sure.
yeah, I don't know if I've ever been a fan of dropping our stories. I don't know, maybe there was a point I expressed that, because it doesn't seem like that's necessarily even possible, because it's kind of like then we just have to replace it with another story, right? I'm the one that has dropped my stories, so I'm the spiritual one.
Yeah.
That has dropped my stories,
Yeah.
and then that's just another one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess for me, I didn't mean to imply that's what you were saying, is to drop your story. It's more that, I mean, that's like this, that's the thing, right? The ego, okay, you become aware and so you can let go of this and let go of that. And like, as if there's anywhere for any of it to go anyway. I don't know. But things have that dissipated in my life, which I found fascinating, right? Like another one, I guess I'll share. Well, should I share this? Like, yeah. Well, it's just about Papa, so maybe I won't share it then. Other to say that I used to get more, like, I was really affected when I was younger, right, by the things he did, and and just where he was at, like where he was at really affected me. And there was a point where I actually, I guess I can say it this way, I was living with him in my 20s, and him and I were sharing a place, and one night I just decided to go talk to him about how I was feeling, and how you know I how I'd felt as a child, and he was so open and accepting. He just received what I said. He didn't try to change it. He didn't try to fix it, but he really acknowledged, where I was at, and it was like gone after that. I was never affected by that again. Like it just was gone overnight. So that whole story that I had vanished. And I mean, to me, it was like this magical thing. Like, wow, my God, it's gone. And and so powerful. But once again, so this was before the days of intensives, where here was, someone, in fact, someone that, I loved dearly, and who was a part of all my stories, just acknowledging and holding the space for me, and seeing me in it, and it had the effect of, allowing that to just fade away.
So is there more to your journey? Did that
More to my journey.
well, where did it just kind of like merge into?
Oh no, then it
What's
got
there?
really hard. And it was like, I kind of got what people said, yeah, let's embark on this spiritual journey. It's not going to be easy. And I was like, holy shit. Yeah. Then it was like a real roller coaster, but in a way where I felt like I'm aware of what's going on. And it was like I had this piece of me where I was more holding this space for me. Like, despite that decision that I would never leave my relationship, I did. And then, that was like years of struggling with that, and, financially and emotionally, and working through all of that, and trying to navigate my life. Like, where am I supposed to be? What am I supposed to do? And so it got really hard, but in a way where I wasn't resisting it anymore as much. Like, I wouldn't, emotions would flare up, and it's almost like I became aware that, wow, okay, when this stuff is showing up for me, it's because I'm ready and I can handle it. It wouldn't be showing up if I couldn't handle it. And I don't know, maybe that's another story, but it's been something that's helped me just keep opening and cry and cry. I feel like that's all I do sometimes. Maybe I'm just crying, the world's grief at times. And so it's been a very emotional journey, but I feel like I'm at, especially lately when the boys finally, finished school, and it's felt like, okay, finally I can be free. I can just go and live my life like I wanted to live, in a way that I'm just going to trust and surrender, and instead of really having a plan. And I mean, my plan though was, I let go of most of my stuff, put my stuff in storage, and decided to go travel and do that. Surrender as I'm traveling. Like, I don't know where I'm going next. Okay, I'm going to go here, and meeting people. It was so rich, and I thought that was going to be my path then, right? Okay, another story that, oh, this is my path. I'm going to do this for years. Just keep working my way around the world and meeting different people, and sharing their lives or sharing their stories with me. And then COVID hit, and it was like, whoa, okay, that's not going to happen anymore. Plop back here, right? And it's like, okay, now what? I don't know. And so I still feel like I'm still doing that. And I've landed sort of in Cortez Island here. It's beautiful. And I can see how I have a choice whether or not I want to just fully dive in and be a part of, this life that's here in front of me. Whereas before my life, I felt like I've often just dipped my toe in, right? And just kept myself a little bit separate, or, yeah, not gonna I just always think about you when, it's watching you grow up. It was always 100% into whatever you were interested in at the time, right? Like, it didn't matter what it was. You just dove into something fully and experienced it. And then, oh, I'm done with that. And I'd be like, what? How could you let that go? Right? So, and then boom, no, I'm interested in this now, and do that. Like, I've always admired that. And yeah, so I don't know, maybe can I do that? I might try that out, just as another thing to try.
So I'm just curious, as some common themes that I'm interested in exploring in these talks with people. And so when you said that it got really hard, right back, did you have a sense of what your quest was? Kind of, if you put it in the frame of like kind of a spiritual quest for you. So question is, at that time, and then along the way, and is it the same today?
Well, at the time, it felt like, I mean, it was a lot of it was around the relationship, which had not been going well. And all of a sudden, like, it was like this heart opening that I felt, right? This love, this positive. It's like, that's how I want to live. I want to live from this place of love. And I want my kids to know that. And so, I mean, I went back and tried for 4 more years, right? Before I kind of said, okay, this has become too toxic, and I want to give my kids a chance to see me living from this place of love, or I don't know, like even like, I mean, at the time I was thinking, okay, I want to find a relationship where there's, this mutual love. Like love played a big part in a way, but it was always
We're gonna
about,
have that's gonna be have to be our next talk. Is what does that mean?
what does love mean? Yeah, but so for me, so that's it was almost, and I would go to intensives and I would just fall in love too, right? Like there would just be this love, this connection with everybody, and I was like, that's what I want. That's how I want to live. And so I would see other people going for an experience of union with God or whatever, and I was like, yeah, I'm not interested in that. I wanted love, right? I really, that's, I could see that, like that there was this piece of like, no, for me it's like, this is what I want. And so that's why I feel like, well, okay, well, I'm like, I was cheating. I wasn't a spiritual seeker, I was a love seeker.
So there was a kind of a state of flavor, because when you talk about having union with God, to me that sounds a lot like love.
Yes,
But
I kept that separate in my head, right?
so to you it was a loving connection with others.
Yes, I think. And that, and just me being able to just not have, being free to love too. There was something about that. Like I felt like wow, I'm free to actually just love these people, to love others. Whereas before it felt like, okay, no, that's something, you need to contain. It's, you have certain people in your life that you can love. But so that seemed to be more my path. Love and freedom though too. Like, I don't know, there was a love for the ocean that was so intense. Like it's like, I
Sounds a bit
tried to,
like God.
it doesn't even make sense. It was like this pull. My heart would get pulled to the ocean when I had those chances, when I get to go there, I'd breathe in the salt air and it's like, oh my God, right? Like I just felt like this, I was going to have union with just the ocean somehow. Like it became like the ocean was my God. And so my goal was like, I need to move closer to the ocean.
Yeah.
So that became this pull, right? To try to move to the ocean. And not knowing, why or whatever, like there's no real sense, okay, well then what sort of deal. And but just because it just, there was, when I was at the ocean, there was just this state of being where there's just joy, like the joy is just overflowing, right? And so yeah, I want that, I want more joy like that. So yeah, so it went like from love to the ocean, and then I finally moved to the ocean, and then it became a lot about freedom too. At the same time, I was like a single mom, trying to create this life for my kids, and it was good though. I think despite all the turmoil that I was going through, and I think I was a good mom. I talking with them now, like too, right? Even the leaving the relationship, my goal was to do it in a way that was just this natural transition for them, and it was like, they don't, like they said, well, we barely noticed or something, right? Like it wasn't, they didn't feel, I mean, maybe now in their life they kind of look back on it and have more thoughts about it and that. But so the other piece, so yeah, love, but it was also this something about this surrendering, being able to just follow these prompts or these things without knowing where it was leading.
So hang on a sec. So you mentioned freedom,
Yes.
and then so I was going to ask you about that, and then you mentioned surrendering, and then I'm like, okay, are those the same for her? Because that might not necessarily be the same thing.
I know.
For some
I don't
people.
know. What I think if I surrender, then I can experience freedom. Maybe that's what my mind says. There's something about this freedom to, I think it has to me, the freedom is freedom from trying to live my life in a way that I think others need me to do. think there's something about that, because I've often felt like I've made choices, or we won't talk about choices.
We can talk about choices.
But it's been I've
Mhm.
the paths I've gone down often, when I look back, it was like, okay, well, this is what so and so would be really helpful for them. Coming back to this thing of I want to help people, this would help them, this would help them, and as opposed to just like, okay, well, what is it I really want? Right. So that's when selling everything and going and traveling was freeing, because it was like all of a sudden I didn't feel like there were any. I could just move where I wanted to. I didn't feel these obligations, and I know that a lot of these ideas I have around obligation have just been created myself, right? But that's where my tendency comes, and so being free, dropping the idea of the obligation has felt like freedom, and that all that's also like been part of this surrendering. Then can I just surrender to what's tugging on me and just see, even if sometimes the tugging is a negative sense, like, oh, that makes me feel icky, I don't want to go there. Okay, well, maybe that's what I need to surrender to now, right? This something is uncomfortable. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it does. What?
Go ahead and say it. Just say it.
No, I'm curious. I'm back to where you said, like, you won't talk about choices.
Oh, right.
Is that because the conversations I had about
Yeah, just
choice?
the saying, okay, well, do we actually make choices? And, right.
Yeah. So I find that interesting because you talked about where I share things and like like a part of it resonates or whatever. And it seems like, so I have this experience of something and I do my best to communicate it to another person, right? But that other person can only take it and try and kind of fit it in to the way their perspective is at the time, and that, so that, to me, that's kind of an interesting example of that, right? Because then it's like, well, we won't talk about choice, but to me, that's not how it is. Like, I talk about choice all the time, and I talk about making choices that happen, just make a choice. But I think it seems to be the reality that of how this all works out, right? So I have someone communicate something to me, right? So like my teacher Hale, he talks about how waking, sleeping, and wait, sleeping and deep sleep, that they're just states of mind, and that there's kind of this there's a way of being which you're completely aware in all three of those states of mind. And like, I hear that and I was just like, what the hell does that mean, and how? Right? And then what do I do with that kind of thing? And so I don't know where I'm going with this. Just how the challenge of this whole path, right? And for whatever reasons, we have, it's kind of like that one talk where I talked about the elephant, right? And Did you see that one where I took like the elephant, the
Yeah,
blind
that
people,
story is always with me too. Yeah,
the
we
blind
all
people with the
kind of
elephant?
touch on different parts of the whole.
Yeah, and so this is this is how I see freedom or whatever, right? And I mean, it's taken me a long time to to kind of realize that that's not necessarily how everybody sees it, right? Or how everybody is going to actually see it. That everybody's aha moment, or not even aha moments, right, are going to be like that.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I don't know, I've kind of gone off. You're sharing.
But I see what, yeah, I totally get what you're saying. Like this piece, so I'm saying, oh, because I've taken what you've shared about making choices, and I've kind of interpreted it in my mind in this way that's
Right.
me not necessarily how you see
Yeah.
it. Or what you how you see it.
But I think that yeah, like in the non-dual kind of hangout, people can get very literal about it, and I don't know, there's kind of these common jokes like, can you please pass the salt? And well, who actually wants the salt, right? And so I think Hale is good at that. Hale, because people would talk to Hale and they try and frame their language in a way that they thought aligned with how he saw the world and how he wanted them to see the world.
Yeah.
And he would just always say that, like, please don't change your language, right? Because you're just you're just making it worse. Right? And making it harder for me to get a sense of where you're at.
Right.
Right. So like even choices, right? So, and that's the thing, right? Because so I've really tried that, not to change my language, especially my relationship, right? With Barb, she can care less about my language or like and so like she just feels like, why are you talking like a odd person? No, right? So yeah, but that comes again back to the story about the stories, right?
Yeah.
So if I were to change how I talk about choice, but that's the thing, and that's where the story part comes is what it's just about really kind of rising up above it in some way. Like like there's this great analogy that I like, that it's like looking at a window, right? So right now you can look out your window, you can see the trees out there, or you can shift and you can see yourself, right? You can see your reflection in the window. and in my experience, it's kind of the same thing with the stories, like that. That's why dropping is pointless, because we're just dropping it at that same level. We're just hanging out at that same level as the stories, and dropping the stories just creates another one, right? It's just the mind trying to do a dance. Whereas
Right.
if one just shifts their perspective and then says, well, like, who's that story really about anyways, right? Is that and by shifting perspective, they see that shift story is actually about nobody. That story is about something that happened in that's already passed, right? It's already gone.
And it's just a memory.
Right. And it's just a memory, and then it's just, and then so what really shifted things for me is kind of when I started kind of framing things as with regards to personality, right? That we just seem to each have these very unique personalities, and those personalities like to shape things and 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 like to make sense of the chaos in different ways. We all have our unique ways of making sense of the chaos, right? So when you talked about this, I don't know, we talk about the something icky comes up, but then surrendering into that, and that to me, that just seems like your personality, your personality has a bent towards those kind of stories, right? A kind of a, but that's not really news, right? Your whole life, you've kind of had that kind of much more like you're really into mythology and right, and then the gods and goddesses and the fables and stuff like that. So that it would make sense that that's your way that your personality has of trying to organize the chaos a bit. And so
Through stories.
Hmm?
Through stories.
Right, but through the stories, your unique ways of stories, like we're all coming up with stories.
Mm-hmm.
Not even me would come up with stories when I talk about choice or no choice or the self or no self. Right? I mean, they're still
Mm-hmm.
stories. That they're a way of my personality kind of organizing the chaos in a way. And yeah, so it's, I guess, an interesting example is so my teacher Hale, who has, how you doing for time? You
I'm
okay?
good. Do you have to go?
No, I'm good as well. We'll go a little bit longer.
People are gonna go, this is too long. We're not watching this one.
There was actually not even an hour yet because we started late. So I mean, so much, he's had such a profound impact on my shift and my relationship with suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he talks about other things, I kind of, part of me is like, okay, well, you know, pay attention to this, but it doesn't always overlap. Like he's started this whole program he did about love and being love, and he just like the whole thing. It was just like love and being loving, and to me, that doesn't make sense. Like, why is it going on about this love thing, right? This, because I think we've talked about this before, that I see so many people get kind of tunnel vision with that in a way, right? And then that's love, and so anything that doesn't fit what they think of as love, then they're either trying to get to it or get away from it. Anyways, so I'm like, well, why is he promoting this this thing about this love? I thought that when he said, stop looking at states, to me that love was one of those, right? And get rid of that. And so at the last retreat I was at with him, I actually went up front and talked to him about this. Like, why are you talking about this? And he thought it was pretty funny. And his take to me was, that's just because that's the way you're looking at love. That's why it doesn't make sense to you. And I was just like, oh, what does that mean, right? And it still doesn't. I kind of get it a little bit, but it's not. In some ways, because it's not how my personality is wired, right? And to me, love is kind of a I thought we were going to talk about this next time, but it's kind of a byproduct of emptiness. That when we see past the illusion of separateness, then the kind of cherishing we have for what's inside this skin, it only makes sense that it spreads out, because I'm not in the skin anymore, right? I'm all these other people. So that's where it kind of fit with me. And so I would always, people would talk about, well, I'm trying to get love. Well, get this first. go for this first, and then the love will come, and you won't be confined to that. But my learnings over the years is that didn't necessarily resonate with everybody, and it doesn't even, there's no reason it should. And that maybe through love, through that intense desire for love, that's what breaks down the separation. And that through that breaking down the separations, one can see that there's no boundaries, and then come to that sense of emptiness through love, right? Where my path is.
That's an interesting one. So the rest of us are, well, not the rest of us, some of us are out there going for love, but we need to get to the emptiness, and you're going for emptiness, but maybe.
Well, so love is a byproduct of the emptiness.
Right. But could the emptiness be a byproduct of the love?
Absolutely.
Right?
Well, honestly, absolutely. But that's what my personality is pondering.
Yeah.
Right. And then seeing, because there's definitely, I remember Murray's like, well, there's the Yanni path, and then there's the Shakti path, and so you definitely seem to be the Yanni path, and that's, I don't know if it was him, but other teachers as well, right? You're familiar with that, right? The Yanni is the path of knowledge, and right, to get to emptiness through the mind, right? And then the heart.
Buddhism is.
Yeah, but even Buddhism, there's different parts on that spectrum. Some are much more mind focused, and some are more practice focused. But then there's the path of devotion, right? That's the Shakti path. It's devotion, and through that devotion, one comes to the same exact freedom. And that's something that I always struggled with, was, well, how could you if you don't see it, right? How could you come to that freedom?
Oh yeah, I can totally feel that. As soon as you say the path of devotion, I'm like, yeah. You can't feel it. How can you get there?
Yeah, to me, it's like, if you don't logicalize it, how do you get there? And
yeah.
So that's, yeah, that's kind of
Hmm.
what I'm interested in exploring with these
Yeah,
conversations is people, or how each person sees the elephant. And
exactly, right? Even though each of us probably thinks we've got the whole elephant.
yeah,
I think we have this clear take on it or something. Maybe not. I don't know. But
yeah, but yeah,
I mean, and that's such a wonderful story, anyways. Just for every part of our lives, right? We're all holding a different part of the elephant. We're all blind, holding a different part of the elephant, and trying to tell other people what the elephant is. And when other people say, "No, it's this," we're like confused. Don't how can they not? They're of course the elephant is like a snake or a wall or a tree trunk or whatever part we're holding, right? It's
yeah,
almost like we can't quite fathom what the other person is saying, even though they can tell us it's like that. And we can go, okay, yeah, yeah. But with all our parts of our lives, right? Our relationships, how we see different things. Like right now, right? Like, I mean, even to something like COVID. I mean, I just see all these fragments happening because everybody is holding different parts of the truth, right? Whatever truth they're getting from the media. And they're so certain in their certainty that they're right. And it just creates this, this animosity between people, which is,
yeah. So for me, the calling has been to recognize I just seeing part of the elephant, and also being open that I also see the whole elephant,
yeah.
but I can't. I think it was Alan Watts or someone talking about this philosopher, and he says, he says, I know what time is, but when you ask me about it, I don't know what it is. And so there's like, there's kind of that sense that just absolutely letting go of trying to hold it, one can know it.
Mm-hmm.
But then when one tries to communicate it, one has to take hold again. And then that's when the fumbling starts.
Yeah, because words are just words.
Yeah. Words are just words. That's kind of where we ended up last time. All right, I'm just gonna stop the recording. You have anything else to share?
No, that was
For
fun. Thanks, Sean.
all right, thank you.